Welcome back everyone to the Fusion 360 tutorials. In this video we are going to learn how to access some of the Fusion 360 tools and some of the other additional features in there, such as units, preferences, measuring tools, the family tree, the hierarchy of the parent-child relationship, making 3D text, choosing materials, and viewing your object's properties. To learn how to access these tools and these settings, we are going to build a personalized drinking cup. So the first thing we want to do, because we're going to be doing this in metric, I have created a new design here. I am going to go up to my browser, expand the document settings, and verify that the units are in millimeters. If it's not in millimeters, we're going to check on this. It will bring up this dialog box over here, and we can change our units to meters, inch, or foot. So if it's already at inches, if it's at inches, we're going to change that to millimeters, and if it's at millimeters, we will keep that. So I'm going to hit cancel since ours is at metric millimeters. The next thing we're going to do is create our first sketch, and I'm going to select the sketch tool, and I'm going to select my base plane here. So we are going to build this up and down just like we would see it in real life. So the first thing I'm going to sketch using our circle tool is a circle, just a rough sketch, and then I'm going to go add my diameter onto that. And remember, we can change these dimensions at any time that we want. So I'm going to make this cup about 70 millimeters, and that's all that I'm going to sketch on here. My profile is constrained. You can see it is black and it is shaded in blue in the middle, so we know it is a closed profile. And if we expand on our sketches, we can see the little red padlock on there, which means it is fully constrained. And I'm going to finish my sketch, and if I look at my default home view, little isometric view, we will see the circle that we just sketched. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my extrude, and it by default selects that because it's my only profile. I can drag that up to the right dimension if I want, or I can put my value in here. So I am going to put in a value of 130 millimeters. It's a little tall cup, but that's fine. And go back to my home, and there is my cylinder looking cup that I just made. We can make adjustments to this after, so not to worry if we've made it too long. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a hollow in here. Obviously we can't pour anything in this cup, so I need to extract or extrude a cut through there. So I'm going to select my sketch tool, and I'm going to sketch on this plane. The next thing I'm going to do is select a circle, and I'm going to drag that out to there. So we have a few options here. We can change the diameter of this. We can change the diameter to this by dimensioning it, and we can fix that on there. But if we go back to our design intent, we might want to maintain this wall thickness. If we just put this dimension on here like that, and say we change that to 65 millimeters, if we decide to make the change to our cup outer diameter, that means our wall thickness is going to get thicker and thicker and thicker, because we've said this is going to be 65 millimeters. So what we would want to do is to dimension the actual wall thickness in here. There is another way we could have done this. We could have used the offset tool. So if I do delete this, I could delete that like that, and I can use this offset tool, and I can drag this circle in there, and I can put a dimension in there. So I could put a dimension of, I'm going to make this 2 millimeters, and that is constrained, and it puts that dimension in there. So our sketch is fully constrained, and no matter what dimension we change to this outer diameter, this is always going to remain 2 millimeters. And that was our design intent. We're going to finish this sketch. Once again, I'll look at the home view of that. And now we need to cut this center out. So we're going to go back up to our Extrude tool again. I'm going to select that area, and we can drag that down like that. And we don't have to put in a dimension. We could just hit the Enter key now, or the OK, and that would be done. So we want to get it. We made our wall thickness 2 millimeters, so we would probably want to keep 2 millimeter thickness from the bottom as well. So instead of using our distance command, we're going to select to an object or surface. So we're going to rotate this, and we want it to go down to this surface. Now that goes all the way through. We don't want a hole going all the way through. Obviously that cup would not hold any water. So we are going to put in an offset distance from there, and we are going to put in a value of negative 2.0 millimeters. And once we select OK, now we have a cup with a bottom, and that thickness is 2 millimeters on the outside of the cup and 2 millimeters on the inside of the cup. And it's kind of hard to see that from this view, and if you wanted to check, we have lots of tools to check that those dimensions are they're the dimensions that we want. If we want to see a visual of that, what we can do is do a cutaway or section through this part, and we can go up to the inspect, and we can do a click on a section analysis. And what that does is drag something through the surface that does a cutaway, but we do need to select a surface or a plane in the direction we want to cut. So I'm going to select the default plane here. I select on that, and I could drag that in and out to get different views, or I could just accept it the way it is, and I could change my view and look at that. And if that's what we're looking for, we can select OK, and now we have a section. So we can see that visually. If we wanted to check the measurements, we could also go up to just click on the inspect and the measure, and we could select some points. I could zoom on here. This is just a distance. So I'm going to select that point and that point, and you'll see it says 2 millimeters. The information is in here as well too. So distance is 2 millimeters. I could also just select that little curve length on the end, and no, that's selecting the whole loop. So 2 points in this case is going to be what we're going to use. And back down to the bottom, I could inspect the distance from that surface to that surface, and again it's going to give us the distance is 2 millimeters. So a couple ways that we can use the inspection tools to visually look at something, or to actually measure something and get the exact value or unit on there. Since we're done with the section analysis and we want to go back to the regular view, we're going to go over to our browser tree here, and we're going to see analysis in there, and we have section here, so we could right click and delete that, or we could just turn that off. We may want to keep it for future reference, or we could right click on that and just select that to be deleted permanently. And just to demonstrate that we have made design intent, I can go back to my original sketch here. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to change that to 90 millimeters. Going to make it much bigger, finish that sketch, and we will see that the wall thickness there is still 2 millimeters because we did not dimension the inside diameter. We actually made our design intent was that that wall should always be 2 millimeters. Our cup right now looks a little plain because it has kind of sharp edges on there, so we're going to want to add some radiuses to the edges and the bottom as well. So we could select our fillet command, and to get on the inside we may want to turn it like this and put our radius on there, but just to make sure it does look proper and we have concentric radiuses, this is a good opportunity to again use our sectional analysis. So we can take our sectional analysis and selecting that plane and selecting OK. Now we can look at our shape orthographically, and we can add those fillets in at this point. So selecting up under our placed features, we are going to use our fillet command, And now we have to select those edges to add the fillets. And I'm going to select that inside edge there, and I'm going to put a value of 2 millimeters in there to give it a little bit of a curve. If we want to put a fillet on the outside edge and we want them nice and concentric, I would want to put, this one is a radius of 2. So 2 plus the wall thickness of 2 would be 4. So I'm going to want to add a radius of 4 millimeters on that edge. Select my fillet command again, select my edge, and I'm going to put a value of 4 in there. And because we have the section view, we can see that that is nice looking curves. Those radiuses are concentric, and we want to get rid of these sharp edges, sharp corners up here. So we're going to add some fillets on there and go back up to our fillet command, select that edge and that edge, and I'm going to select a fillet of 0.5 millimeters to give it a nice rounded edge. And now if I go back up to our analysis, I'm going to hide this one as well too. So we can see we have a nice rounded edge on the top and the bottom of the cup. Now, one thing I wanted to quickly demonstrate on here is some of the preferences inside the file that we're working on that is related to units. So if I wanted to edit this sketch here and I look and I see a value of 90, if I double click on that, it says 90 millimeters. My previous value I put in was 90.00, but if I put 90 in here now, because my units is set to 0 decimal places, and maybe it is going to be 90.25 millimeters, but it still displays 90 there, does not show the 90.25. So what we would have to do to change that settings is we're going to go up to our profile there and select preferences, and the menu takes a few seconds to pop up, but once that menu pops up, we are going to see lots of preferences that we can change in there, and one of them is unit and value display. So if we click on that, my precision is showing 0 decimal places. So in my case, I want to show maybe 2 decimal places. We can change the precision for angles as well, and there's some other various settings we can change in there. That's all we're interested for now. I'm going to select OK. So I have changed that to 2 decimal places. So if I go back up to the sketch now and it says 90.25 in there, hit the enter button, and now it's going to show those other 2 decimal places. The next thing I'm going to do is to personalize this by putting my name on this cup and wrapping it around in the shape of the cup. So going to go up to add text. We're going to need to create a sketch. So I'm going to go up to create a sketch, and I'm going to select that default plane that is facing, that is my XZ plane. I will select that, and now I'm going to go to my create and select text, and I'm just going to outline a text box there, select 2 points, and now I'm going to type in my dialog box my name. So once I'm done typing that, it should display up there. I can change my font. I can make it bold if I like. I'm going to keep it center justification. I can also change my font type as well. So lots of options there. I'm going to leave that default on there. To make sure it is constrained, I want to add some dimensions to this. So I'm going to select my dimension command, and from the bottom to the bottom of my text box, I'm going to make that 60 millimeters, and I can change the height, control the height of my text box as well too. And I'm going to go with 15 millimeters for that. It is still not constrained. I could still shift that around. But what I want to do is I want to fix it vertically right in the middle here. So I could use a couple constraints. I could use my horizontal constraint and do the midpoint and this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my axis. So I have my Z axis. You can see it highlights there. But in order to use that, I can't see it. So what I'm going to do is go up to create and use the project geometry, shortcut P. And when I do that, I can select my Z axis and you will see that appears. So it's kind of like a movie projector where it actually projects an image to a surface, and now that makes that accessible. I'm going to use my coincident constraint. I'm going to, the center of that is on that line. So I almost have this fully constrained. I need to add a width dimension on there, so going to select my text box and add a width on there. I'll keep that to 72 millimeters, and my sketch is fully constrained. You can see by the red padlock on there, and I am now going to finish my sketch. So when I look at this, you will see your sketch is actually in the middle there. So it's not exactly where we want it, but we can control that with our extrude tool. So I'm going to go up, click on our extrude tool, and I'm going to select that text. And if I drag this out, we are going to see that pop outside of the cup. And because this is actually selected as a cut, it's actually going to cut a hole in that cup, and it's not going to hold any liquids very good. So what we want to do is we want to change this to a new body. So it will consider this a brand new body, separate body, an extrusion. If we look at the top, we will also see it's actually created an extrusion in the middle, which we do not want also. So we can make modifications to that in our dialog box. Our start, where do we want it to start from? We're going to select a surface we want it to start from. We're going down to select object, and we're going to select this surface, and we want it to start on that surface. And our distance is 65 millimeters. That's too much, so I'm going to change that back down to 1.0 millimeters. Select OK, and now you will see that we have our name extruded on our cup. Just go back to the default home view. And we have our completed cup design done. Now remember, we changed our diameter from 60 to 90 millimeters. We're going to go back and change that, so we can double click on our sketch here, and I'm going to change this back to 60 millimeters. That will change the shape of the cup. Everything is maintained, even the wall thickness, because we've implemented design intent into our model. Now, as part of the design process, we may want to see if this met our constraint for weight. So we need to know how much this is going to weigh, but we also need to select the proper material as well too. So in order to make sure we've got the proper material, we're going to go up to our document name. We're going to right click on that and select physical material. So we're going to select on physical material, and a dialog box will pop open, and we have lots of options there. So we have ceramic, fabric, flooring, glass, metal. Even under metal, we have lots of options under here. So I'm going to see if I can find, say, a stainless steel. So there's stainless steel. This looks pretty good. Holds in temperatures pretty good. I'm going to drag that onto there, onto the shape, and now my material is stainless steel. And in order to see how much that weighs, if I go up to my menu or my name again, right click and select properties. And when I select properties, some information is going to come up here. I can select physical, and I can see my mass here is 415 grams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and change that material type. Right click on here. Close this window, right click on here, select physical material. When the dialog box pops open, I'm going to select a different material. So let's go with a soft bronze, drag that onto there. And now I'm going to right click on here and select my get my material properties, or my product properties, and click on physical, and you will see the mass has gone up to 461 grams. We also have the option of changing the appearance. So maybe we've got the right material on there, so we've got the right weight, but we want to change the appearance, just the appearance, not the material. We can right click on there or select A, the shortcut for appearance, and we're going to follow the exact same procedures. Go down to the appearance that we like. I'll use the mirror on here, and I'll drag that onto there. So now it becomes a mirror a mirrored material. But if we do right click on here and select properties, we will see that the material is still bronze, soft tin, and it still weighs 461 grams. So changing the appearance does not change the properties of the materials. It's for visual only. So our cup is complete now, and feel free to add any additional modifications on that any additions onto that you may like.